All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our program administrator meeting. This is certainly a very different dynamic than what we normally have in an in-person group. So I personally am going to hold out hope that maybe there's a small chance that in December we could gather in person. So hope along with me. All right, so if you haven't already, go ahead and sign into the chat box. We do ask that you keep your microphone on mute unless you're speaking. All right, thank you. Okay, so for today's agenda, we're going to keep a similar structure to what we do in the in-person group. So the first part of the meeting is going to be our state office updates. We're going to talk about some important dates that are coming up. We're going to talk about how September is an incredible month for recognizing and advocating for adult literacy. Then we're going to give some updates about the NRS comment period, the Q1 reporting that some of you have been asking about, and then NEDP updates and professional development updates. From there, we're going to move into an IET discussion, and we are joined by Katie Edwards today, who is going to be helping us out with that conversation. All right, so let's just dive right in. So some important dates, and you don't have to write these down. I will send out the slides and the recording later today. But as all of you know, the September 11th deadline for the fiscal 20 end of year reports, that is moved up from what it's been in previous years. So previous years, you saw a due date of the end of September. Because of some changes for our reporting to Octave, we need to move that up. So I hope all of you will understand. So many of you are new that you probably don't even realize that that's about 2 weeks earlier than normal. We will hold our next leadership team webinar on October 14th. I'll send a save the date so that you can invite your leadership teams to that meeting. We'll keep it same day, same time, Wednesdays at 9:30. And then Doug's going to talk a little bit more about this later, but I wanted it to be on this slide too. The fiscal 21 Q1 report will be due October 16th. I think you'll be happy there is no narrative involved in that report. So don't get your feathers all ruffled. That'll be an easy report for you to do. And I also want to talk about monitoring when we're looking at the calendar moving forward. So Tanya Washington's team is going to resume on-site monitoring beginning in October. Please know that we will be as flexible as we possibly can, but her team had to pause monitoring in March when this started. So the people who should have been scheduled from March to June will be the first people that we'll be contacting. And her plan is to do 2 years in one visit, if that's possible. So if you didn't have if you were expecting to have your monitoring visit between March and June, please know that you're probably first on the list. So as we get dates from her, we'll be reaching out to you. And if you haven't already, you will probably be hearing from your program specialist very soon about that. Know that we know that your files might be in different places, that you may have access issues to some of your files. So one of the things that we're going to do is provide you the list of 10 names a couple of days prior to your visit. That will allow you time to make sure that you have the files that you need. That's just going to make it more efficient for everyone. Like I said, if there are issues that you know of ahead of time, just let us know. We'll work together. She just wants to get the monitoring visits back up and running, if at all possible. All right, and then I just want to remind everyone that the communities of practice will happen in November. So those will be varied, but November is the month we've set aside for communities of practice. All right, so in alignment with important dates, I want to make sure that you're aware that National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week is happening this year. It's going to be held September 21st through 26th. The National Coalition for Literacy and Adult Basic Education and Pro Literacy have all put together resources and toolkits for you. So I would encourage you to check those out and to make sure that your staffs, especially new people, are aware that this week happens on an annual basis. You could follow the two second bullet at National Coalition for Literacy Advocacy and the hashtag AEFL Week for news and updates of national events that are happening. If you are doing anything at your location to celebrate National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, we would love to know. So please keep us informed. Obviously, in a COVID-19 world, it looks different than it probably looked last year. So, but if you do have anything planned, please let us know. The other resource that I wanted to point you to is actually around this month of September being really a month where adult literacy is celebrated, is advocated for, and brought to the attention of a more national audience. So the Barbara Bush Foundation updated their literacy gap map. It includes state and city level data. And it really explores the connection between literacy, equity, and the quality of life throughout the US. So the link is there. You'll get it when you get the slides. But it really shows a snapshot of data around adult literacy. So things like the 4th grade reading level of citizens, poverty, unemployment, median income, the high school attainment levels, and healthcare access issues. So all of those things are available on that map. It's a fantastic resource for you and your teams if you're looking to speak in a public forum about literacy needs, especially within the state of Maryland. So I would highly encourage you to check that out and see if that can be of value to you. All right, and with that, we are going to move into the NRS comment period, and I'm going to turn it over to Doug for the next couple of slides.
Okay, good morning, everyone. If you have not heard, Octay is currently doing a review of its NRS tables, and they're requesting comments on this. It's something that doesn't happen super often. So what I would recommend, if you haven't heard anything about this, is you can go to the COABE website. The webinar link is on here, but you can also just go to COABE website and you can find information on it. Basically, they're making some changes, or they're proposing some changes to the NRS tables. One big change I just want to call out for you is that they want to change Table 4 again, but this would be a good change. They're considering making a new column to increase the amount of measurable skills gained. So right now, you can get MSG by getting an EFL gain, so going to one level to the next via pre and post test, or by getting your high school diploma. They also want to make it possible for you to get a measurable skill gain by completing a certification through an IET program. Now, I can't answer any questions on that because we have a lot of questions about what that might mean. However, if you have questions, the best way to get those answered or to make your concerns known would be to watch this webinar and then to actually submit comments to Octay. So this is a federal comment period. It's very quick. It's due on September 21st. But if you are all interested in the possible changes that are coming to the NRS tables, you want to propose changes that are not currently that are on the table, or if you want to make comments about what they're saying and maybe talk about some concerns you have or some ways that they can make it better, wording issues, etc., this is the time to do it. So this may not be for everyone, but if you have an interest at all in how the NRS works and how things are measured, which hopefully includes all of you, I strongly encourage you to at least watch this webinar and see if maybe between you and your leadership team, you may have question, a comment or two that you could submit federally. We are also looking at this in our office and determining from a state level if we have questions or comments we want to make. But my thought is the more the merrier. So if you have questions or comments from a local level, please consider doing that. Okay, so fiscal year 21 reporting. I know you are just finishing up your fiscal year 20 end of year reporting, but it is getting ready now for fiscal year 21 reporting. This year we have gone back to quarterly reporting as opposed to trimester reporting. So the first quarter does end at the end of September. There's a document on the ALWIS website. The link is there, and it has the LACES annual data entry schedule. This is mostly for the MIS staff. It shows when each quarter starts and ends, the deadline for entering data, and then what the MIS or other data entry staff should accomplish. First quarter is from July 1st to September 30th. The deadline for the MIS to have everything entered is October 15th, which means that if there was attendance on September 30th, a class met, a student registered, etc., anything that happened through and including September 30th, that should be entered into LACES by October 15th. And then, of course, the MIS should run the student diagnostic searches as usual. And then the last step on their task list is to create a PDF copy of your NRS Table 4 and NRS Table 4B. This is something that the MIS is used to doing, used to always making Table 4 and Table 4B once they had hit a deadline. What we're asking you to do is the MIS, when they create the PDF copy of 4 and 4B, we're asking that you then upload that 4 and 4B to the shared drive by close of business of the following day. So the MIS have to have their data finished by October 15th. We're asking that you upload tables 4 and 4B to the shared drive by October 16th. And that would be under your program, the fiscal year 2021 files and the fiscal year 2021 grant reports. If you don't do this usually, this is an excellent time for you to look at your data as a team. Now, I know that this has been, for lack of a better word, a messed up quarter. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's been very difficult for all of us. But that doesn't mean that the data doesn't have any value. So if you don't already have this plan, I would encourage you as a team to sit down together, look at this data and say, hey, where are we at this point in time? Where are we going, etc. But part of that is also that we want to make sure that we have a copy of your 4 and 4B at this snapshot in time. But there's no report to fill out. There's no, stick your header here and put your table, etc. It's literally just asking you to run the report and upload 4 and 4B. And that's it. So then I will turn it over to Bio for NEDP updates.
Hi, everyone. This is Bio Adetunji. I just wanted to highlight a few announcements that I pulled from the NEDP news bulletin that you all receive every month. Comes from our vendor, from CASAS, kind of providing important updates about NEDP. One of those is the fact that the fall 2020 NEDP National Training is scheduled to take place on those 5 dates that are listed on the screen that you see there. It's a 5-module training. It's for new staff at existing agencies and for trained advisors and assessors who, for whatever reason, whether it was because of COVID or because you didn't have enough clients during the last fiscal year. So for those advisors and assessors who, for whatever reason, didn't serve any clients in FY20, you are required to participate in this training as a refresher. And also for current advisors and assessors, we just want an update, essentially. So for registration, you need to contact CASAS at the email indicated there. And also this morning, I saw the another announcement about a PD that I think will be beneficial for your NEDP advisors and assessors about the NEDP remote delivery refresher. As you know that the written prompts and the IOC, the inner office checks, have all been transitioned online. So they'll be offering 2 sessions on the same topic on September 10th and the 14th. So please encourage your NEDP advisors and assessors to participate in these training sessions. And I also wanted to this is like a reminder that the NEDP transcript process, we kind of changed that sometime last month. NEDP transcripts are now issued by the Office of Adult Instructional Services. That means our office. The request form is available on our website. I also sent a copy to you by email last week. Finally, I did send out a survey last week. It's just an NEDP programming survey. Since all the components of NEDP have moved online, I just wanted to get an idea of how things are going with your programming, and if there are any issues or any area where you need assistance, just basically to touch base with you. Now, I've received responses from about 6 out of our 11 programs, and I'm encouraging everyone to please respond to that survey today or by the end of the week. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My favorite topic to talk about. We're getting ready to launch our third virtual training institute. So this is more of an awareness that it's going to be taking place on December 7th or 9th this year. Those are our tentative hold dates. But we did launch a call for proposals last week, and immediately some of your programs have already submitted some. So I was like floored and excited. So thank you guys for always having your continued support for that. I know this is like a broken record, but if there's a specific training that you're hoping to receive or that you think that your teachers could benefit from that we have not been offering, just feel free to reach out to me. It doesn't necessarily need to be, a proposal process, but we can also help fulfill needs in that manner as well. So we're really, really excited about that. I'm not going to take too much of your time talking about that today, and I'm going to pass it over to Grayla to talk a little bit about IETs.
Good morning. There has been such, I'm going to use the word excitement in the community about IETs and offering IETs and running IETs and what is an IET. And so we thought we would take today just to give you a little bit more information on that. So if you have looked in the AFLA grantee IET folder, there are documents in there. It would be the single set of learning objectives for an IET, the IET planning tool and guidance on completing that tool. This is also available in the IELCE Community of Practice folder. So those of you who've been doing IELCE with your IETs, that information, you already have that. So I wanted to just give you a brief definition because there's been a little bit of concern about what do you mean single set of learning objectives. So here's a definition. A set of statements that identify specific adult education content, workforce preparation activities, and workforce training competencies, which indicate how they are organized to function cooperatively. So the three components of your IET need to have a single set of learning objectives. How do each of these components speak to your learning objective? And so hopefully that'll clarify things a little bit for you. And if there's time today, we can talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. So once again, in that file, you have your single set of learning objectives, the Maryland IET planning tool, and guidance for completing that planning tool. So as you know, when the grant this competitive year came out, it was determined that every program is required to offer at least one IET, okay? And if you use your planning tool, that's gonna help you develop an IET. Every program should consider the student's EFL level and interest prior to entry into an IET. So while we want every student to have access to an IET, you have to really think about what it is you're offering and what level student is going to be most successful in that IET. And you also need to consider your students' interests. So as you are doing intake or you're taking surveys in classes, or you're looking at planning this IET, what are your students interested in? Because you want them to participate in that. The other thing is offering multiple IETs is ideal, but it's not always feasible for every program because of whatever the constraints are. You're in a rural area, or you have a small population, or you have a, your budget doesn't allow you to do anything big. But this is a good time for you to really think about partnerships and how you can partnership with either Title I or with another program in order to offer IETs to your participants. So at this point, we have Katie Edwards, who's going to talk about her experience. So she talked a little bit last time about her experience in filling out the IET planning tool, but we're going to have her get into that just a little bit more. So maybe you can have a better understanding of how that planning tool helped them kind of think about their programs. So Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I see some nods, so that's good. Well, thank you guys for having me. Special thanks to Grayla for giving me the tool for the first time, and then also to Gina for inviting me. So I know some of you may have heard me talk about this, and hopefully it's not too repetitive and it's helpful for you as well. So just wanted to share a little bit about my experience in using the planning tool, because honestly, when I first got it, I was like, no, something else to fill out, and I wasn't enthusiastic. Not that I don't love filling out things, but you know, we're all busy, and there's a lot of things to do. But it actually was really, really helpful, and I think probably the most helpful thing is it really helped, you know, in my conversations with Grayla, to get us on the same page, to know what we were talking about. All of our programs have so many idiosyncrasies and different nomenclature, and it helped me to realize, okay, this is what we're talking about here. We have the same language, and yeah, looking at that document might be really helpful to just see what exactly it is if you're not familiar with it. Because I think even after a lot of conversations and professional developments, it can be hard to interpret what our programs are. How are we meeting the needs of students in an IET? Are we meeting all of their needs? Are we doing everything that's required? Are we leaving something out? Is this IELCE? Is it IET? And you know, with guidance seems to change and all of these things, it can be really confusing. So having this planning tool was very helpful to kind of capture all of those moving pieces. And I actually really wish I had this from the very beginning. So I definitely foresee myself using this as we go forward in the future. And I encourage you, if you're in the beginning stages of IET, definitely use this from the very beginning, especially if you have any partnerships. You know, I didn't have the opportunity to sit down with our partners and complete this because we had already kind of developed our program. But I'm imagining, I envision like in the future sitting down with our partners and kind of going over it and being able to share what our vision is. Because I know in the past, sometimes it was hard to communicate. Well, you can't just offer a training. We need to also offer adult literacy. We need to also offer workforce preparation. And to be able to communicate that with a clear tool would be really, really helpful. In the first part of the planning tool, you think through basically what we're saying. Is this a good fit for my students? You know, what sort of salary possibilities are there? What sort of career pathways? Is there a next step, or is this kind of just, well, that's it? And if that's the case, then that's probably not a good IET. So, for example, I was thinking one of our programs is a Google IT course, which is really, really exciting. The target salary range for an IT support specialist is $34,000 to $72,000, which is not bad. Start a little bit on the low end, but it's very flexible. And there's a lot of opportunities for advancement. I know that our continuing education department is creating apprenticeship opportunities with the state. And this is going to be a great opportunity for our students to continue to advance in IT, in that field, and also stuff for non-citizens, which can be really tricky in the information technology field. So it's very exciting to realize, okay, there is an opportunity for advancement. It's a career pathway. It's not just kind of, there it is and you're done.
So Katie, will you walk us through sort of like maybe giving us an idea of who the population is that you were thinking of in creating this IET for, and then sort of how you thought through what industries would be appropriate?
Sure. So, like most programs, we do, when we're registering students, now online, we ask them, what is their goal? Like, what do you want to do? Why are you taking English? We ask them things like, what was your job in your home country? All the data collection that we normally do. And we've been trying to, instead of just saying, okay, we filled out that form and we're done, trying to actually go back and look at it. And what we noticed in our region, for example, we're in Howard County, so a lot of our immigrants are highly educated. And that doesn't mean that they are necessarily in high skilled jobs, but a lot of them might have had university degrees. And we kept noticing things like bookkeeping, accounting, information technology. And because we kept seeing this, that's why we thought maybe we need to go in that direction. It also was really helpful in some of our IELCE classes and our regular English classes to, in the times where we're talking about career exploration, we would have our IET, IELCE case manager come in and talk to students and have them fill out forms to see what are they interested in, what jobs have they done, and what were they interested in. So it was a combination of that, like student interest survey, and then honestly looking at what partnerships do we have that were easily available. A while ago, a couple of years ago, we were starting and maybe looking into an electrician apprenticeship, and it sounded really great, but we were having a lot of trouble with our partner, our potential partner, just communicating the vision. Again, I think this maybe would have been helpful for that conversation, but I also think that they just didn't really understand and weren't as interested as they could have been. So by talking with our workforce folks and seeing what do they see, and what are some high demand area, jobs in our area, and then also looking at what partnerships do we have on campus, for example, we were really able to come up with what are kind of the best IETs for our students. And obviously, we're still going to be tweaking that and making adjustments. I really see this as a refining year for us as we see like what are people interested in and what is running and what's running well. So again, I think that's kind of how we started with figuring out which IETs we wanted to offer using that kind of combination.
That's great, thank you. And then also thinking through, what does your sort of schedule look like for them? Like what does the AV side or the ESL side and also the workforce training side look like?
Yeah, so one of the things in the planning tool is it actually has like the weekly schedule and then also a, I guess like a timeline from July to June. And I think that's helpful for thinking through, well, what is this actually going to look like? So for example, with this Google IT class, the workforce training is online and it's asynchronous. So that is a very different dynamic than, for example, our CNA, where there's specific timelines and then we have to really work around their schedule and kind of wait to find out, okay, when are the CNA classes going to be offered? When are the skills labs going to be offered? Is that going to be offered in person or not? So all of those pieces really needed to be figured out from the very beginning, to even figure out when are we going to offer the ESL literacy part? When are we going to offer the career preparation or workforce training, workforce preparation? And who is going to offer that? Is that going to be, we have a pretty robust partnership with our workforce folks. Are they able to do it? well, how does that fit in with their schedule? So there's a lot of even just that sort of negotiating. So kind of starting with, well, which is the most inflexible? Probably the workforce training. And then kind of going backwards from there, figuring out how do we align it so it's not totally strange from our other classes, but also meeting all of the needs of the students.
So Katie, I wanted to ask you, so on that chart, well, we know part of what you have to consider when you're doing the IET is the duration and intensity of each of the components. So when you were looking at, and I know you already had your program put together, but when you filled out that chart where it talked about the percentages for each of the components, do you think that that was helpful in figuring out the intensity and duration of the components?
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting because we do offer several IETs, and I thought it was very interesting that they didn't all have the same percentages, right? Because of the way the different trainings start and the way that we wanted to run the classes. Obviously, they're all, overlapping, but, sometimes like the training has got to be really intense. So we're going to ease up on the workforce preparation or the adult education and literacy. Or towards the end of a training, maybe we want to increase the workforce preparation because they're getting ready to enter in the workforce, and we really want to make sure that they're ready. So thinking through, okay, do we have too much of one and not enough? And really thinking, even though it doesn't have to be completely balanced, making sure that we are at least not neglecting one area. And I think that was actually very helpful to consider that.
Thank you. And then the other chart that's on there where it talks about the activities and the materials that you would use. So do you think that was helpful in figuring out, once again, for each component, what are the activities that we're going to do? What are the materials that we're going to do in order to reach this single set of learning objectives?
Yeah, so one of the things I think it was helpful to start with the shared learning objectives, to think through, what is the main focus of this class, and thinking about it as a whole, because it is very easy to think about it as separate parts. Especially if we're not doing, team teaching or anything like that. Just logistic wise and feasibility, it was just easier for us to not do it that way. But we want to make sure that it's still one class, it's still one complete part. And so thinking through the main objectives of the course and then how do each of those activities line up was really helpful. So one of the things I did was think through, okay, what's the syllabus say, right? We all have to create objectives and in our syllabi. And so I really just looked at that and said, okay, this is what we have. These are the main activities that we're going to focus on. Obviously, I'm not going to list every single thing that we do, but these are the things that when the student is finished with the class, they should have learned, they should have achieved that. And it was interesting to see, some of those workforce preparation activities, for example, were covered in both kind of the adult ed side and then also the training side. But whoever was doing it, it was still a workforce preparation activity. And so I think going forward, also considering how could I maybe use, somebody wants an example of the objectives. Yes, I can do that. So for example, I've got that IT one up right now. So one of the shared learning objectives I had was demonstrate mastery of IT fundamentals. And then I have some examples, including networking, troubleshooting, system administration, and security by completing the required coursework for each of the 5 courses in the Google IT Support Certificate. And another objective would be apply interpersonal and professional skills in the workplace with a focus on oral communication. And I will go ahead and hopefully paste that. There we go. Love it. Copy paste.
Katie, you're welcome to share your screen if you want to share the tool.
Sure. It's so funny because I'm so used to my, we are a Zoom people at HCC.
It's called Present Now in the bottom right. If you like hover, it should give you an option to do it. There you go.
Looks like I'm presenting.
Perfect.
Can you see?
Yeah, if you can close out the navigation, like X out the thing that says navigation, it'll make it a little. And then zoom in a smidge for us.
Okay. That's
perfect. Thank you.
So again, we have a couple of other ones, but this one is what we had. And I use, obviously there are a couple different standards that you could use, and I use the College and Career Readiness Standards since I feel like they worked really well for what we had and what we were looking at. And then it kind of got divided. Again, adult ed and literacy, workplace preparation, and training services. And you can see that they really have like kind of objective like language, right? Learn and apply reading comprehension strategies, learn and apply vocabulary studying strategies, work collaboratively with others to present opinions, retell information, support points with relevant factual evidence. And then the training, right? This is like the nitty gritty. Assemble a computer from scratch. Yeah, there's no way that's going to go in the adult ed and literacy instruction. But you can really see how they all kind of blend together. They need to know how to use reading comprehension strategies to read the material and understand what they need to learn. They need to work collaboratively in order to assemble and choose and install an operating system and communicate with their classmates. And, you know, especially since this isn't for an IT support specialist, they're going to need to work collaboratively and explain, how do you log on to something? How do you fix this error? And so communication is a really, really key part in this class. And so, for example, for the adult ed literacy, using pronunciation is going to be really important, more so than if somebody was going to be in a field that was less orally driven. And so you can really see how what the job is really informs what you're doing in the adult ed literacy instruction, the workforce preparation, and it all kind of ties together. And it goes on. And then you can see that we have the different materials. And I thought it was very interesting how some of the materials overlap, right? It's not just in one area. It might be in more than one area. And this is an example for the timeline that we were talking about earlier with the percentages. So we have to have all of them. And this one was pretty even throughout the entire time. It didn't change. Whereas some of the other courses, they did change because there was the clinicals, for example, or just the way the timing of the classes started. Workforce preparation and adult education started before the training. So it's just really helpful to think through that.
This is great, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a question. Would you be open to sharing this document? Would that be like something you would be okay with?
Sure.
Okay. I'm happy to, I'll just get it from you after today and then share it with whoever is interested. Sarah, I'm sure I'll just send it to all the administrators because I'm assuming more than just Sarah's interested. Did anyone have any specific questions for Katie? I don't want to put you on the spot, Katie. But
I would like to answer any questions. I am not an expert by any means, but we are stumbling on it and figuring it out.
No, I just think you've done a really thoughtful job thinking through how much of each component is necessary at different times. So it's really great to hear how you worked through it.
Yeah, and I would also, again, just thank you guys for being patient. I know Grayla and I have had numerous conversations, and I feel like this tool has helped us to understand each other, which is really important. But if anyone has any questions and would like to talk further, you can always send me an email. I can get on, Zoom or whatever your college uses. What is this? Meet, Google Meet.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Katie. We really appreciate your time this morning. I know that this is sort of the culminating time of this meeting, but did anyone have any questions about any of the other stuff that we talked about today? Okay. I'll take your silence as no.
Silence is consent. So I did receive a request yesterday to get an update on open GED testing centers, and I passed that along to Molly Dugan. She was meeting with Pearson yesterday afternoon. So as soon as I get the update from her about that, I will send that out to all of you so that you can disseminate that to your teams. All right, and with that, I think that is probably our shortest program administrator meeting on record. And like I said, I'm going to hold out hope that maybe in December we can meet in person and eat, holiday cupcakes and stuff. So. All right, gang. Well, thank you so much for your time on this Wednesday morning. As soon as I have all the resources gathered, I will send them out to you.
Ellen,
Yeah.
Hi, this is Emma from Howard County Library.
Hi, Emma.
Hi, can I share some news about the new grant we have?
Absolutely. We love news.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just want to share a piece of good news. The Howard County Library has received a new grant from the, I have to say it right, Institute of Museum and Library Services. It's a one-year grant to pilot a program for skilled immigrants. And with this money, we're hoping to target certain skilled immigrants who are moving up in their careers because of credentialing issues or language proficiency issues. And we're hoping to help them overcome that barrier and be able to move on with their career. And this is the hope with this grant, is that we can establish a service model that can be duplicated in other library systems. So right now we're recruiting board members to help advise and guide the project. And then we're also we're hiring a part-time career navigator with this grant and to help us with the operational side of this project. So if you're interested about the job itself or help us out as a board member, please contact me. We're very excited about this opportunity. I know there's a lot of work ahead of us. I was listening to Katie talk about their idea. I know we have our work cut out for us here, but we're very excited to take on this project. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Emma. It's wonderful. Wonderful new way to support your learners. All right, anyone else with news? Hopefully positive news? All right, well, like I said, thank you so much for your time this Wednesday morning. We will be in touch with those resources and the GED update as soon as those are available. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic Wednesday, and we'll see you for the October leadership team meeting in a couple of weeks. Bye.